Hello, good morning to everybody. Today, the subject which is given to us is the simplicity. So, I was wondering what it could be, but the only thing which came into my mind is eliminating what is excessive in the life will give the way towards simplicity. What is excessive? Each one has to measure himself. What is excessive in there? But simplicity are also closely associated with minimal things. So, simplicity and minimal thing together, I think they take you somewhere else. They take you to the core of purity. And in the core of purity, there resides the truth. There resides the God. There resides transparency. There's absolutely no ambiguity over there because it's a minimal. Minimal means the truth. No, you go to the core of the things. That's what it is. You see. But to be simple is not an easy task. To be simple, it means so many things you have to give it up. You see, you have to sacrifice so many things. And for that, I think one has to go extraordinary complex things in order to become a simple. So simplicity is not simplicity by itself, it comes. There is a lot of pain behind it, you see. It's very interesting. We're talking about simplicity, we're talking about complexity simultaneously. Two are contrasting things. But the other one is useful to be simple. Without that, it's not possible. See? So why we call this a complex methodology? Because it needs, I don't know, it needs tons of patience possibly, You should have capacity to, give up certain things. And also, you need tenacity, tenacity, you should be able to really bear these things, It's not easy that way. That's what I want to say, It's a difficult way of getting to simplicity. I think a classic example will be Mahatma Gandhi, the simple person. I can only recall the Mahatma Gandhi. He was a simple person. But where the simplicity came about, it came from sacrifices. Is it easy to be simple? No, it is not easy to be simple because we produce only one Mahatma Gandhi and there's no Mahatma Gandhi afterwards. What is the reason? Because it's tough to become a Mahatma Gandhi. So what is great about Mahatma Gandhi is the same thing what we talked about simplicity. Simply, I think we are talking about the image of Gandhi, what it reflects to you is his character. His character, it means in his character, there's a simplicity. In his character, there's a truth. In his character, everything is there. All this, you can see in the Gandhi, all these things. You see. What kind of beauty is there in Gandhi? It's very interesting. It's a beauty, we are talking about facial beauty. Are we talking so cosmetic beauty? Are you talking about Gandhi is good looking or not good looking? But what kind of beauty is that? I think ultimately that beauty is something, it reflects from what he is from inside. No, it's character. His character is beautiful, you see. So I think when we talk about building and everything, is it possible make an attempt to acquire that kind of beauty? What is that kind of beauty? Beauty in character. So first of all, when you build anything, the building should have character. If it doesn't have character, how the beauty will come about? It's not possible. So how do you implement the beauty? How do you do it? In order to get that beauty, there should be something that beauty emerges from. It emerges from the character. The character is nothing to the normal sense of beauty. So we talk about elevation. So I think building which has got a character doesn't need elevation. It's an image by itself. It's a total thing, you see. So you don't have to add anything in it because it's a true expression. So I think those buildings will be more Gandhian buildings possibly, So that kind of aesthetic, how to get it? I mean, that's very difficult. To me, I think one example that comes to my mind is that you cultivate the friendship. When you cultivate the friendship, what do you see in it? The person looks beautiful, his elevation is good, or it looks from top or I don't know, whatever it is. Do you think that way? His goodness lies inside that friend, you see. And what is the expression of the friend? That goodness is displayed on his personality. I think the same thing is adaptable to architecture. So can you instill that kind of beauty, which is true beauty, So I think there are so many examples. I can give the example of Van Gogh. I think the story of Van Gogh is this, that he was very lonely, alone, not so good looking person, but he was a great painter. And he used to work at the mine, in the coal mines. And early morning, 6 o'clock, the shift used to start. So he used to wake up early at 5:30. The junction of the road, there was some railing was there. You see, he used to sit on the railing and take some sketches because he's so motivated. He wanted to be an artist, you see. And you can see those sketches and everything. You can see there's some sketches. You should refer to sketches. What is all the coal mines? Complete face is not visible. You see, it's completely covered, and the people are just walking. Slow. You can, if you see sketches, I can see the pace of the people also. How slowly they are walking. And that's a beautiful thing. So ultimately, he used to work all the way, and whatever the money he used to save, he used to buy the canvas and the paint. I used to do the paintings. During his lifetime, he couldn't sell a single painting, so he died of poverty. And I think he committed suicide, if I'm right. But today, Van Gogh's paintings goes in crores of rupees, or millions of dollars, you see. So I think I'm wondering about that man, what does it mean? I mean, don't answer. There's so much contradiction in this, you see. But why his paintings are so beautiful and why they are sold such a high? Because it's true expression of that person. You can distinctly see in his paintings. His paintings, if you see it, I know people who have seen, it's made up series of lines. There are series of lines, and those lines become a texture. Each line is almost like a thorn or pin, or pointed. You see, something that hurts you. Because his life, he was that way. It was not a smooth line. But you see that curved line, there's so much reluctance to do that curve. Curve is smooth. The smoothness he never knew in the life. He saw only, so you can see in the curved lines also, you see the hesitancy. It's not smooth curve. It goes, stops, and that kind of thing. It's a beautiful expression of the person. So what I'm saying that in a building also, it's possible to express what the building wants, you see. So it's not very important what architect wants. I think it's to synchronize two things, what architect wants and what building wants to be together. When they fuse, a good building becomes. You see, the goodness come into it. So what is the spirit of the building? The Khan is, I think, a wonderful person who talks about all these kind of things. He talks about, for example, the question, we are talking about these things, but I think ultimately you have to ask the question. Asking question is nothing but your mind is very curious. It wants to know more, and you're anxious to know. Therefore, asking the question is the most important thing. See? And Khan says that a good question is better than a brilliant answer. There's one sentence is there. I think so beautifully said. Good question is better than the brilliant answer. Just think about it. The brilliant answer came about because question was asked. So one is what, and the other is how. How is the answer? What is the question? So who is mother and who is child here? The good question, it becomes really, because of that, that thing is born. The good answer came about. The brilliant answer came because good question was asked. So asking questions is, I think, most important. And that's Khan always says that you should ask the question and find really what is the spirit of the building is. And therefore, he talks about measurable buildings. You start with immeasurable, you go through something measurable, and at the end, it becomes immeasurable. How does it happen, actually? Your first impulse or concept of the building, you also don't know, it's just imagination. It is only in the head, and it just around it, and you don't know, you cannot assess it, what it is. But you feel something has happened to me, that idea has come about. Then you go on drawing board and start to scribble and everything, and maybe something may come there. And then you realize, it's not exactly the same thing what my impulse was. So this is something like that, you see the lightning, it comes and goes, you see. But something shocks you there. My God, you get really perplexed there. You get stunned. And then you wonder what it is, you see. The lightning for me is an impulse. That's an impulse, you see. Now, what was behind the lightning, how will you know it? Suppose you make that lightning mentally to stand still for a certain time or period, then what will you see? You will see the horizon. You see all the sky, And if you make it little more time to still, then you see for the background, you can see the river, you can see the house, everything. It was there, but it was hidden to be revealed. So how it is revealed? Because we made the lightning to stand still for a certain period of time, and you found the mystery was the lightning was there. This is what the impulse is about, you know. So what you do, you impulse is a factor 5 is involved here. Here, when you get the impulse, something else is involved here. What's involved? A pencil in the hand, paper, drawing board, and you are just scribbling on it. You see, this is what you are making the lightning to stand still for some time. You are making the, what is the first impulse? You are making it possible. You see. But at any given time, whatever you do, it's always a less. The Kant says beautifully again I'm referring Kant again and again. You see, Kant says, man is greater than his work. Therefore, whatever he does is less. Whatever he does is always a less. But less shouldn't disappoint you, because otherwise you don't do anything. Because for impulses, I can never bring into reality, and therefore I can't do anything. Because I'm so honest, I really want to imitate the impulse. It's not possible. It's not possible. So, but I think you have to work hard, scribble around, and you arrive at the solution. So your impulse is immeasurable. So when you start sketching on everything, really it's quantified, It becomes measurable then. You do the working drawings and, all kinds of drawings which is needed for the site, and everything is quantified, including quantity. But at the end, the success of the building is at the end, it should become immeasurable. Now, how is it possible? It sounds a little funny and tricky, you see. It is started with immeasurable, it becomes measurable, and at the end, we say it should be immeasurable. Something which I measure, that object, how can it become immeasurable? When I go and see, not just the Kant's building, but the C. Corbusier's building, say Millionaires Association building, which I visited a number of times. I went there. In the beginning, I didn't like it, to be frank. I mean, I was raw in Doshi's office. I was working there, first year or something like that. Then I went 3-4 times, and then I started liking it. So every time I went, I discovered something new in it. I visited again. Again, I found something new. So every time I go there, something new was there, and the building is asking the question, do you know how beautiful am I? And if you know, come next time, I'll show you something else. So it's a building, and then whatever, there's a call in the building is calling you all the time, because I want to know what it is, you see. It's immeasurable. The building is measured. When there's a working drawing, there was everything was constructed. It is in there, but the experience which you have got, it becomes immeasurable. So I think great architecture, I think something, it begins with the immeasurable, goes to the measurable thing, and ultimately it becomes immeasurable. And that's the beauty of great buildings, successful buildings. Some of the buildings, they are time bound, and some of them are timeless. What is timeless building is something immeasurable is timeless building. See? Falling water is a timeless building, possibly. Was it good building when it was built? It went through bad building. Never. So many isms came, so many, what you call that, postmodern and minimal, and so many, kind of this came. But every time, that building always stood out. 100 years it stood out, and it's really portraying itself most beautiful building in the world. So all this ism, what you get, ism is what do you say that postmodern, and what is that, modern architecture and this and that. So many came, and the building which is built at that time, as long as that ism stayed, it was time bound for that. It was not going beyond that, So it shows the shortcomings of those buildings, because something immeasurable is not injected into it. Only great architect can do it. But I think there's nothing wrong in striving to do that, you see. And that's a beautiful thing to have. If you see Charlie Chaplin's movie, for example, it's done by 50 years back, 100 years back, I don't know, 60, 70 years back. But still, you don't need to be intellectual to understand that movie. You don't need to be. My mother was literate. She never went to, and she saw this movie and she was laughing, laughing her guts out, kind of thing. So much there. So what's that great thing about that movie? Any given time, though it is so old, today also we enjoy it. But it is something timeless about it, isn't it? So you can match it with the falling water building. And this is very similar to that. They're timeless. Only the field is different. One is filmmaking and other architect. So there are so many examples where timeless. I think only thing we as an architect or architecture student, can you learn something from it? How to make it timeless? Actually, what you should do, person becomes curious when he has got a question. If he doesn't have a question, he can't be because everything is given to him. So I think you should teach in the colleges how to question. Urge to question is, but it means you are making that person very curious. And in curiosity, trust me, there lies creativity. So how do you make them to ask the question? Because system is such, what we teach in the college now, is that everything is given to them. For example, they are with the teacher for 6-7 hours. So all the knowledge is outsourced. Then there are some books. He has got any queries, any doubt or anything, he can refer the books. He can talk to his friends, maybe go to the library, and he gets the answer, you see. So all this accumulated knowledge or gathered body of knowledge ultimately finds its way or finds its place in the head, the memory box possibly. And at the time of examination, you deliver it. You see. So what it tests you, it tests you of two things: how hard your work, how strong is your memory. But what you delivered, that's what Charles Fourier talks about, transport and transformation. So what he did in this education system, it kept on transporting from one place to other place. It's a courier service or something. You get something packet and take it there. But what is the person who is doing all these things? Is he really creative? Are the students creative really? The transport business, they are doing it. But this should be transformed. So Charles Fourier said, it's not transporting, it should be transformed. But how do we do it? That's very important. How do you teach to the students that it should be transformed and not transported? I think what one could do is that same thing. First, accumulation of knowledge. Second, storage. And third, you have got delivery. But in storage, you can play a little trick there. The trick in the storage area, you have to some processing, machine you have to put in there. So whatever information comes in there is processed, and then it is delivered. So what is delivered is not same thing what the thing was there, but is processed, but it is transformed into something else. That's what Charles Fourier talks about transformation. I can give you 2-3 examples. For example, we take the food when they're hungry, and it stays in stomach. There's some system is working inside there. The digestive system, you see. So ultimately, it's a digestion everything, and it's converted ultimately into energy. So food is transformed. What is there transformed is not a food, it's energy, but it has got essence of the food. So you should carry the essence of the food and then transform it. So this is a good example possible to understand what it is. And in our schools, I think this is not taught. Transformation is never taught. Transporting is taught because it's easily available in the book. And you just pick it up there, store in the mind, and you deliver it, and you get the 100% mark. It's very easy to give the example. It's easy to find the faults. And this is the way it should be, but how to do it? I think way of doing is ask the question, because aiming for the audience. If you ask the questions, and then if you ask the question, the mind becomes very curious. And as I told you, curious mind, there's a possibility, there's a creativity. Possibility. I'm not saying every time, you're curious and this comes, to go and trial and error method for years of toil and, everything. But constantly, you should be curious. And to be curious, you have to ask the questions. Unless you ask the question, you cannot be curious. It's not possible. Therefore, I think that's what Kant said, good question is better than brilliant answer. You see, question is very important. So I think that's what more or less I've talked about architecture related to the, what is the minimal and this thing. Minimal things, I think you should think about which is minimal. It doesn't need your building needs to be beautiful. The concept of beauty is very different. Concept of beauty is Gandhian beauty. You understand what is Gandhian beauty? What I told you earlier. A building which has got substance, which has got character, the character itself becomes it's a manifestation outside. That building is a beautiful building for me. It's not beautiful in the sense of facial beauty or cosmetic beauty or beauty parade. You talk about actor and actress, not that beauty. It's something else. It lies in the depth of design sensibility. Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah. You have to use this.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to Creative Mornings, to Charishma and the team. It is rather humbling to be here, sitting alongside sir. We have often spoken about the incredible value we've accrued as young students being in Bangalore when all of them were practicing. Of course, they still practice, both Navnath and Shankar sir, Mohe, Prem, Edgar, Nikhil. A great group of people who, through these kinds of this is a very formal setting. In fact, I think it's great if you can get Navnath in an informal setting with some elixir and some snacks. But the thing about it is, simplicity, the theme, and the person, both the brothers and the work that they did, they're completely sort of enmeshed in my mind. So there's a distinction I'd like to draw between simplicity and simplistic.
Yeah, very important.
And so simplicity, when you go to and those of you who haven't, I'm so happy that the seed students went to Kerimani yesterday. Soon, I think Navnath will move back to the village, and I don't know how many of us can still partake of that incredible masterpiece. But the thing about that building is that it's not simple. It's simple, yes, it's simple, but it's joyful. It's a celebration. It heightens your spirit. And so this idea of what does architecture aspire to do, and that's why this idea of simplicity is a little bit of it's difficult to sort of articulate. I remember Glenn Murcutt used to quote Coderc, the Spanish architect, and he'd say that when you work, you bring to your work love, effort, and suffering, he says, and then he pauses. And it's exactly as you said, to get to that point where the building seems obvious, inevitable, and yet completely joyful is a real struggle. I don't know how you do it. It's easy to tell somebody that that's what you should aspire to. You go to a building and you recognize it, but when you sit down to draw it, it just refuses to appear. It refuses to come. So I'd like to ask you, sir, about when you were younger, you used to travel a lot.
Sure.
I remember that because as students, we would hear of a slideshow just, in the ether. There would be this rumor going around that at Nikhil's there's a party and they're going to show slides. And so all of us would land up and we would see you discussing things sometimes quite animatedly about what you had seen on these trips. How do you see, like when you go on a trip and you're looking at things, looking at, an old village or looking at other buildings, what are the methods of seeing?
Well, I don't think I can talk about method of seeing, but only thing we didn't have this modern gadget, so-called. You can take any picture, or you can just take the what do you call it? Huh?
Camera, iPhone.
Camera. You take pictures, everything. Therefore, you don't look at the building. That's what I was telling you last time. A camera looks at the building. Problem is this now. And those days, there's scarcity of. It was very expensive habit to photograph the building. You have to buy the reel and then you have to process it and the kind of paucity of money we had with great sacrifices we had to buy this. So when I got say 8 or 9 shots, I can be shot of particular building or number of buildings, then I have to see that building very carefully. I have to scan it every part, which is angle is good, there's a morning light, afternoon light, and all this. It makes you think because I cannot shoot as many pictures as possible because there's paucity, there's something, I cannot afford to do all this. I don't have the luxury. So I think having no luxury, I think it's very fruitful. It teaches you a lot of lessons, you see. Therefore, we used to see the building very carefully, you see. But when you go now with all these pictures, you can, shoot the pictures the way you want, and you don't have to look at the building, That's why it's become so cheap now. And before I could buy the camera, we used to sketch. When you sketch, then what happens? You scan the every line which comes on your sketching this thing. It comes from that building. So it means I'm looking that line, no? I'm looking it. As we are doing sketching the whole thing, it means I'm seeing the whole thing. I become part. I become very intimate with the building. With camera, I'm not intimate. Somebody else is looking on my behalf. So that is the difference of looking at the building. And it's, I don't know if I was able to tell you exactly what it is. You see.
Did you make, I mean, what kinds of drawings would you make? Would you make elevations or
Oh, no,
plans
no, no. I
or
think overall, this thing, I think when you do sketches, sense of proportion is very important. That's all. Sense of proportion. There are openings and there's this building, So the opening approximately what size, automatically it comes. If you lose the scale, the proportion, the sketch is gone. It's nothing. People will not recognize the same building. So I think that sense of proportion, because I got eyes, so I can see it, but I think you should have capacity to draw it also. See. So that's how I think we're looking at the building travel and everything, it's more involved with the building. And therefore, you know the building much better. It is not impersonal thing, you see. For example, I see the building. How do you see it? You ask me. I remember some of the students I took to Gol Gumbaj when I'm talking about the 80s, story about 80s, mid 80s or something. When you go in the gallery and you see the people walking there, they look like ant. The scale is so huge. It's extraordinarily huge, And many people who already who read in the book, I said, can you imagine this height? They were immediately, students will tell, the height is so much, this is a complete foot and meter and so many inches and this and that, They used to tell, but they didn't understand what it meant, I should understand how big it is, you see. Yeah, we know it's so many feet, so many meters and everything, you see. One is knowing the dimension and others feeling the dimension. We feel that dimension. For that, I think there was 1980s I'm talking about. On MG Road, there was only tall building, which is a symphony theater. There's tall building, this one. And then one day I told them, can you imagine how big the Gol Gumbaj is? They say, "Yeah, we know, everybody knew about it." I said, you can put this building inside the Gol Gumbaj. Everybody was shocked and looking at me. What? Is it possible? So it means they knew the number, but they did not know what that number meant. But if you know the number, you score 100% mark in the examination. That's the problem. You're not tested. What do you feel about it, you see? So that's how I think one way of looking at the building. How do I look at the building? I'll give second example. You want me to? Yes, talk about? Yeah, please. Yeah. First, I heard about Taj Mahal quite a bit. So I read and see the pictures and everything. I said, it's beautiful. It's terrific. Particularly that picture from the entrance hall, and you see it looks like a small little toy or something. And I got an opportunity to see the Taj Mahal. After seeing this, I was a little disappointed. Not because the building is bad. I disappointed with myself. I wish that building I didn't see because my imagination about Taj Mahal was growing and it's
Wait.
and I was somebody else. Taj Mahal, it's so great. But I have seen now. Problem is my all the image stopped. So I was not thinking about what the Taj Mahal is. So anyway, when I went there to see it, through the arch, you see the Taj Mahal. You know that the red building is there. You see the Taj Mahal through that. And to me, it looked like a toy. And then what happened? Taj Mahal heard that. And I had a conversation with the Taj Mahal. Felt insulted. He said, what? Am I a toy? I said, you look like that. Do you know how big am I? I said, I don't know, but I'm an architect, so I can find out how big you are. So I took the challenge, kind of for this thing. And then I started walking across, and there's beautiful gardens and everything. And I was going further, Taj Mahal was getting bigger and bigger, and it's really showing off there. And then I got completely engrossed with this all the garden and water body and everything, and I was looking at it. And few times I didn't see it. It really stood up there. So It started scaring me. I said, I already promised, I know how big you are. And I started doubting myself. Am I really going to find it out? You know. Then after some time, I went very close. And the plinth is, I know, 2 or 3 story tall or something. So when I go closer, I didn't see the Taj Mahal at all. And then I climbed on that platform and I tried to look up. I couldn't measure the height because it was too tall. I had to actually lie down and look at up there and try to find out how tall it is. And then from top, the voice comes, do you know how big am I? I said, ultimately, I said, no, I cannot find out how big you are. You won, I lost. That's how I saw the building. Anyway, it's a story.
Just to go back a bit, to maybe beginnings at, I don't know, at JJ, or I don't know when your elder brother Shankar went to
Yeah, yeah.
college, to JJ as well. I'm curious to know when the lights turned on in a way for you. But when you were young, was there a person, or was there an experience that you remember that really sort of made you feel that you should take up architecture? Were you just following Shankar's footsteps, or was there something that he uh, what was that? When was that moment? Do you kind of remember a time or a moment that changed things for you?
Well, I think we both come from village, and Shankar with great difficulty, joined the JJ college. There's a lot of difficulties, when he went through. And I didn't have any options because village, we don't know what it is. We heard about doctor, we heard about a few things, engineer, never heard about what the architecture is. But Shankar joined, so I joined his footsteps, as you said, when it happened. When I was in 60s, I was in second year, I think. And that's, Chandigarh was built, it just built at that time, 60s. It's completed 60, I think, something, 60s. And people are talking, whole world was talking about Chandigarh, how great building is this and that. And then one of my design teacher comes on my board. You know what he says? I think I told you earlier also. He says, Corbusier does not know how to sketch. This is my training. Just imagine, Corbusier does not know how to sketch. We were very obedient students those days. Teacher may send us stick in the hand. Of course, he is not holding stick in the hand, but obedient in the same what teacher says is true. So I carried all these things kind of impression. Just imagine it happened like this. What would have happened? Similar thing happened. 5 years, to be frank, I didn't learn anything. Let me confess, I did not know anything. And when I went to Doshi's office, I went with the realization I don't know anything, therefore I want to learn. I was really zero. I don't know why they were used to call me architect just because I got certificate. I was very quiet, working hard. I was good in sketching. That was one thing. And I'm wondering why Doshi kept me such a long time because I don't know anything, you see. But I think what he liked my hard work, possibly my like sketches and everything. But he knew that I don't know anything. I mean, that he knew. I think revelation came from the Doshi himself. He gave me one sketch of the house to be drafted. So I drafted the sketch and everything. I was good in drafting. I did it in time also. Correct. Then after lunch, he comes there and looks at the sketch. Good. Yeah, it's good. And then he tells me, but you should know what you're doing. I said, look, I knew what I'm doing, therefore I do the correct sketch, and I did it correctly. So how can you say that? No, I didn't ask him. I didn't counter. His counter argument is out of question, with Doshi. Those I mean, just little fellow. Of course, afterwards we became friendly, but that time I couldn't utter a word. I said, yes, yes, But it just confused me. I said, what he's trying to tell me? He said, you should know exactly what you're doing. They say, look, you know how to draw, but this building should mean you something. So I'll tell you, you close your eyes, take a deep breath, meditate a little bit, miniaturize yourself to the scale of the drawing, and then come down on the earth, open your eyes, start walking through the building. Look at left, right, up and down, and you should feel something. If you don't feel, this way, stay there as long as you want, but you must feel something and then you should come out, you see. And he said, go and see the whole building, all the nooks and corners and light and windows, everything you see it, you see. There's a mezzanine, you go on top, look around, look all these things, And then mentally, I traveled through the building and everything. And then he has strictly told me, I was very honest that way. He strictly told me, unless you feel, don't come out. So I don't know if I forced myself or whatever it is, but I felt something. And then I came out. And then came out and then Dushi says, do you know what you're doing? Then I realized whatever the task which is given, it's not only drawing. He's talking about building. Do you feel what you're doing? I mean, that was very important. And that really stuck me. And it struck me it's a lifetime lesson. From there onward, I knew how to look at the drawings. Until then, I didn't. 5 years education plus 1 year working in Doshi. I worked for 4 years. 1 year I worked in these incidents happened that time. I did not know how to look at the drawings. I knew how to draw technical drawings, nothing beyond that. But I think this is something a fantastic lesson which Doshi gave. I really cherish this until now. That's a lifetime experience. Thank Doshi. Where you are, That's what. So I don't know.
When Karishma invited me for this, and told me that Sir will be speaking, that Navnath would be here, that two words came to me, and I didn't know the theme of the thing was simplicity, but simplicity was one, and the second word was authenticity. That how do you become authentic in yourself? How do you recognize who you are? And I don't know. I mean, ever since I know them as a student, and even today, I mean, there seems to be an incredible consistency between the way they live, who they are, the way they speak, the way they engage with others. And that's very rare. I mean, all of us have our public face and then we have our shadow self that we don't show anyone. But I'd like to believe, as much as the time that I've spent with them, that there is this authenticity to their concerns and to their own sort of, seeking certain things. And with regards to simplicity, there's a wonderful book called The Laws of Simplicity. This is an MIT professor called John Maeder who wrote this. And he's got 10 laws of simplicity. And I was just reading through it again yesterday, and I thought 5 of these were very, very they remind me of my interactions with you and also my engagement with the buildings that you've made. So the first law is reduce, and it says the simplest way to achieve simplicity is through thoughtful reduction. The second is differences, and that's we spoke about that, this idea that simplicity and complexity need each other, that we are not simplicity doesn't mean the rejection of complexity. And this is what I feel about Keremane or many of the other buildings, that there is this real richness to that experience, that they give you these moments of pause, but they also give you these moments of incredible excitement and joy. The third one is context. And I think this is really important. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that. And what Maeder says is that what lies in the periphery of simplicity is definitely not peripheral. And what that means is that, a lot of the work that you did, both of you did at Shilpa Sindoor, they're embedded in an understanding of the context in which they were working. And so who did they build for? How did they come to this? We talk about the Chapdi, construction techniques. They're rooted in an essential condition of empathy. As an architect, I think, more than the ability to see, the ability to draw well, or the ability to imagine, the great space, I think at the root of our work as architects is this notion of empathy. And so when we had interviewed Shankar and Navnath some years ago, and they both spoke about this, say the bank clerk, who comes to build his house, he's got a small site, 15 by 30 or some, small little piece of land.
Kumar, his name is.
Yeah, and he's got 2 lakhs or something to build,
1 lakh.
this 1 lakh. Yeah. At the heart of it is this appreciation of someone's condition in the sense that they have aspirations, they want a house for themselves, and here's a very, very limited canvas on which then but the house is a joy, I mean, how do you make it? So I'd like you to talk a little bit about context, about that time in Bangalore, that, environment in which you're working, and those kinds of projects which were really challenging in a way. And yet you were able to, transcend those briefs and create something of meaning. One is, of course, all of these innovations in terms of construction, but the second is also the dialogue that you're having with a person like that, a bank clerk or a simple person who may not be exposed much to art and architecture, who's coming to you for this work.
But that's very interesting. So his name is Hiran Kumar, the bank employee, and he went to various architects, and they say it's not possible to build a house in 1 lakh rupees. And at that time, it's very interesting. We had developed that chapadi system. I don't know how many of you know that cost-effective chapadi stone slab system, through which I think we can save a lot of money. Not a lot of money, 15 to 20% of money can be saved in that system. You see, that system was ready for 3, 4 years. There were no takers. So nobody wanted. Did you build anything like this? No, we didn't build. No, then we don't want to take a risk. Most of the time, we don't want to take a risk to do that. And then this one desperate fellow comes there. His name is Hiran Kumar. Can you give me a house in 1 lakh? Yes, we can build for you, but you should not interfere what you're doing on your site. It means our system was ready, you see. So two desperate people, one on one side is the architect, the desperate fellow who wants the house, otherwise he's thinking of selling the site. So I said, I shouldn't question anything about it. We'll give the house for 1 lakh rupees. They said, as long as I'm thinking of selling it, if you give the house, that's wonderful, that's great. And I really thank that person because that's afterwards, the Chapri system came into real picture in Bangalore. Nobody knew about it. It was ready since long time. So when this two disparate soul comes together, some clash comes. And the clash was the first house we built in Chapri house, in Chapri system. And then we built that ultimately in 90,000 rupees. But we didn't take the fees. There was extensive supervision because of the new system. People didn't know how to build it and everything. We had to go there all the time, but there are a lot of difficulties. And we had to solve the problems on the spot itself. Cannot wait for that, you see. We solved on those problems. So there's a lot of experimenters going on to and fro and to and fro. So it didn't happen that smoothly. It's taken a little longer time to build that, actually, that house. Then also when you put the stone slab over the stone slab, you know, then what happens is completely it gets stuck with each other and there are little gaps, you see. They have to fill up the gap and to make it waterproof. But its problem is where it is sticking to each other, it cannot waterproof that area. You know what to do. Then we realize that, oh my God, this is a problem, what to do. So I think we came up with a simple idea. Stone slab, one stone slab is there, put this aggregate pieces, 2 or 3 aggregate pieces in between, then it creates a gap. Then you put it there and then very easy to, you can waterproof the thing. Likewise, there are so many hurdles, so many these things. With great difficulty, we built that house. We built that house in 90,000 rupees. But we didn't take any fees. Supervision, everything was freely be given because we thank him because that's the reason we could realize our dream of the Chapri house. Otherwise, it was not possible. So that's the story of Hiran Kumar. Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so those of you who went to Kerimani yesterday, a lot of it is built with that chapti system. So you see the sort of cadence of that walling system. But what's really beautiful about it is also that it is combined then with some exposed brickwork, and there's a little bit of, so even these little aggregate bits that are added, etc., they all become opportunities for ornament. In a way that you're building it, you're facing these challenges, and at every moment it is a chance to do something wonderful. And the other two laws of simplicity, one was emotion. More emotions are better than less. Now, simplicity and emotion seem to be sort of at two ends of the spectrum. And Meda talks about his mother. And he says when his mother first saw the iPhone, she said, what a dull piece of technology. This is that it's got nothing. It doesn't have gold foil or jade or, this kind of articulation. So what does it mean, So the question I had was, so you went to Bendagumbli, for instance, this is, a lot of people talk about it. And in fact, all of us then followed in those footsteps to visit Bendagumbli because you would talk about it so much. So going and looking at these vernacular settlements, particularly Bendagumbli, and I got this transcript from Prem Chandavarkar, which I will send to Karishma, and maybe she can send it out to all of you. but it's a transcript of a conversation that all of the base group is having, along with Satya, and I think even Anand Krishnamurthy is there. Anand Krishnamurthy is
He was
there.
working there.
Yeah, he was working at CNT at that time, and it's a transcript filled with, you can hear them fighting and talking, what rubbish, this is all romantic stuff, what are we looking for, we don't know anything about the society, we don't know Kannada, so we can't appreciate, stuff like that, But what I wanted to ask is that by looking at these traditional settlements or vernacular settlements, and you're, in a way, I'd like to think of you as a modernist, that you are sort of schooled in that idiom of the modernist through Doshi and through Soleri to some extent. How did you make that leap from something as traditional as Bendegumbli or Gulbarga or, all of these places that you were visiting? I mean, what are you extracting from there? How are you abstracting those lessons, and how are you applying it to a modern practice, to something that is concerned with today, with this contemporary moment? I mean, yeah.
Well, the Bande Gumli, I think, you know the whole story, how we found out that village. We used to do some work in Gulbarga, some of the houses we were doing. So every time I went there, I spent out 2 more days to go around and see some of the villages because it was very, very rich in architecture. That area is very rich. Now it is all spoiled. Bande Gumli, you won't recognize it. All concrete buildings have come. Oh, yeah. It's all gone. At that time, I happened to go there. I happened to go so many villages. And I like this particular village. So again, I went there, I took a lot of slides and everything, and came back, and our base group, we showed all the slides, and everybody was so impressed. You show a single slide, you get 7 8 different opinions of the people. They interpret in different way. Same thing. It's really, because each one has an attitude. For example, Prem Chandavaka is very, very logical and very this thing. Mohan is very little romantic, this kind of thing. So you're getting all these different kinds of reaction, from these people. And I never realized one slide can, talk so much. I mean, you can interpret it so many ways. So I think we showed all the slides, and everybody was impressed about this in a Bandigumli. Then again, all these people wanted to come and see, and then Mohi, myself, and few other. Again, we went there and said they were really impressed. But your question is, what do you take away from that? You see, Bandigumli, you have seen the Bandigumli. So, those buildings, if you remove the decoration, if you remove all the, it's a modern building. To me, I can see it modernity. It has got double height. It has got open to sky space. It got compressed height of the kitchen. There's a regular height of 9 or 10 feet for the rooms. There's a courtyard. Also, there are too many. One courtyard exclusively for the kitchen, other courtyard for the house. You see. So I think I look at the elements. These elements, you don't have to repeat or don't transport, like Korea said. Don't transport those things, but transform those things. This was tremendous quality. For example, if you see the kitchen is in low height there, and it's facing the courtyard, open to sky space, and this blank dead wall there of the stone, and light is falling on that. That reflected light was coming in the kitchen. See, and the kitchen is small area, and if you cross the kitchen, and from the kitchen you are going towards courtyard, the in between area between the courtyard and the kitchen, there's double height there. You see, so you come to small height, come to double height, and then come to open to sky. But Doshi calls cosmos. You see the cosmos there. You see, so I think that sequence is, I think, so modern. That sequence is so modern. So I think when you see old buildings, don't think old building. There's some modernity in this, you see. And facing the rooms, having the courtyard, there are various kinds of. This courtyard was strictly for the kitchen. That was not courtyard. So I have to say, other courtyards were democratic. The light is coming and spreading all over the rooms all around. This courtyard was restricted because privacy was very, very important, most probably, there. So not only that, I think simplicity in the stone wall. It's a regular stone wall. Window, I think there were just openings. You see, there's no window as such there. There's small openings, I think. More. And why they make small openings, more like a jali and everything, but the climate. Because the place is very, very hot. If a hot place is there, I think we should do the opening a little smaller. You know what is culprit in the modern architecture? Where the cost goes more, we are cost conscious architect. Maximum cost goes in two, three things. One is big windows. It consumes lot of money. Second is number of toilets. And the third is finishes, the flooring and all other things, So I think if you can control these things, and your cost comes down tremendously. See? The second thing is plaster. If you see the building, the total amount of cement which is consumed in the building, say doing the foundation wall and also you put the roof on top. So the cement consumed for the plaster, what is consumed plaster much more than what is required for the whole building. Cement consumed there is much more than total cement consumed by the whole structure. That's very interesting. When Shankar, I think my brother did all this analysis, he said, I think if we get rid of this plaster, we're going to save a lot of money. And that money we are saving, then we are building the Baghdad. You cannot remove the plaster unless you do the good workmanship. The wall should be good, you see. So it means you have to have good workmanship. So you have to spend a little more money for the workmanship. It means what? From Ambani and all these things, I am buying the cement. I save the money. And then we distribute for poor people who are doing the good work there. So I think we're doing this little social service extraordinarily miniature scale. We're doing that, So that way, what happened? The building began to speak the truth. Plaster is sometimes used to hide the defects. There's no defects. And secondly, it's very easy to quantify. You can measure our stone slabs, how many stone slabs are there. You number these things. Nothing is hidden. Everything is open, So I think it's this kind of sense of, and natural material is a beautiful material. Who doesn't like natural materials? See? So we did this, remove the plaster, and the whole character of the building changed. Did I answer? No.
Yes.
I don't know. Did I? I mean, it went somewhere else.
It's fine.
Huh? No, I don't
It
know.
went to a better place.
We are talking about life. Okay. But I have to reveal all my secrets now. No? Because, you see, basically we come from a small village, Shankar Mas, and kind of life we led, it was we're short of resources all the time, any given time. So we knew how to use the resources more efficiently. So initially, when we came to Bangalore, we didn't know anybody here. We opened a little shop called the office, maybe 8 foot by 10 foot, And Shankar has done a little mezzanine. He used to go and sleep up there in the office underneath. A small little toilet was there. So we didn't know anybody. So all the clients were rejected by other architects. We didn't have any work. So they used to come, you see, and they want to build a house which is economical house, a cost-sensitive house kind of thing. And then we have plenty of time to discuss and talk because there's no other work, no. It was fine. So it was. So we're talking about, and the clients like that kind of interest we took. We took that interest so much because there's no work. We need some company also to talk to. No, so it's a talk. So that's how the cost-sensitive thing came about. You see, it is life has taught us lesson. We just continued adapted in architecture, and we stayed at that plateau. We talked earlier simplicity. We talked a deductive way of simplicity. You give away the luxury, give away the excessive things. Our case is actually additive kind of simplicity because there's shortage of resources. We're always looking for resources. So there's shortage, so we kept on adding. But luckily, we stopped at that point, at the point of simplicity. So I think it's very easy. It's a part of life. And so architecture has become part of life, everything. Shankar, as I remember that he is a collar, normally collar goes dirty here, you see. And if at all it wears off, it wears off in that area. And then you see it is visible in the collar. He had one tailor who was a friend of his. He used to cut the collar, reverse it, reverse those things, and again using the same thing. So we knew how to recycle, how to make it economic. It was relatively easy for us to do the cost-sensitive architecture because we understood the value of resources and we knew exactly where to put the money. I think the whole problem is created because there's too much of information. and everybody is a wise person, everybody is smart fellow, everybody is wise person. So you're not able to distinguish who is who, So to me, it's something like being in the middle of the sea, the you can say sea of information. There's a huge plateau of water, and you don't see the coastline there. And in case sun is behind, you don't know sense of direction either. You see. So what drives you? What drives you? Waves drive you. But do you have your own sense of direction? No, you do not have a sense of direction. And the problem is that you do not have a sense of direction. People who have got sense of direction adopt, take full advantage of what is available. I think those people are more successful. And I really salute those people who can come out of this thing and reach to the coastal line, reach to the coast or something like that. People have lost the focus. People have lost the sense of direction. They don't know where they want to go, and completely engrossed into sea of information. What drives you? Information drives you. You don't drive yourself. You don't have your own thing what you want to do. I think that's the problem. Solution, I don't know. I don't know what solution for that.
We've got two questions that have come up from the audience. I'll just sort of summarize. The first one is about sort of commercial practice, commercial apartment buildings, high-rise buildings, commercial, large-scale commercial work. The question is, do you see that this inherently causes a sort of trade-off in the values that you're talking about, beauty, character, how do you bring that to bear in what actually a lot of the city is made like that, so how do you bring these values into that kind of an environment?
It's a very difficult question. I don't know and how to answer it, but I think the only way we found for ourselves to escape from it. Because we don't want to. I think we like to. We are kind of tailor. We want to make what major kind of clothes. Not something you get in the supermarket. What you call the small and middle and what is the large thing. So we like to tailor-made kind of things, and that's what we're interested. I think we enjoy doing the houses, but we did the housing project. Uh, but I think that's not an apartment. The great thing about it, we knew who are the owners. It was pre-sold, you see. And luckily, there at that time, there were no apartment buildings going on in Bangalore, and there was only one apartment, if I'm right, in Malleshwaram when you're doing. So that trend was not there. And before that, we finished that housing. Thank you very much. I'm really the great job came, and we finished that. So I think there are ways of when you do the housing. As I told you, there are some clothes which are tailor-made, and other you go and buy in the market. You got all the sizes, But the middle M, S, or XL, XSL, or something like that, So it's a mass production. I think what the people are doing about the clothes and this, we are doing for the apartments, mass production. I don't know who is going to live there. So how do they get the sense of house? I have no idea. But ultimately, architects build houses and a home becomes.
I mean, on that same thing, also connected to what Sumitra was saying, that I was just reading this thing about Slow Lab. I don't know if you guys know about Slow Lab. It's basically a food thing about slow cooking. This kind of really thoughtful and deliberate sort of life experience. So what Slow Lab's kind of mission in a way is, they say daily life has become a cacophony of experiences that disable our senses, disconnect us from one another, and damage the environment. But deep experience of the world, meaningful and revealing relationships with people, places, and things we interact with, requires many speeds of engagement, and especially the slower ones. So this idea of thoughtfulness, about deliberation, about tender, loving care, if you will, I mean, it's easy to say that because all of us operate, with our own predicaments, with the kind of things that we have to sort of answer for economically, financially. But the great lesson of, Shilpa Sindoor and the Kanade brothers is that this notion of principle and integrity, that you you do have these pressures as a practicing, architect, but you make your choices of what kind of work you do, how you engage with the world. And that is, I think, to sort of understand from Navnath, that engagement with the world is an internalized. You're learning that as you go in life. What is your stand given these pressures that you're confronted with, and each of us make our choices and make those decisions. But to be deliberate and thoughtful about them, to make sure that we're engaged, thinking carefully about the choices we make. And I think that the thing about their work and about their message that is valid for all of us, young and the young ones who are in college still, and those of us who have practices, etc., is to make a conscious effort to do things with that kind of integrity, taking a lesson from there. This strive to authenticity, this strive to doing meaningful things. These are all sort of tropes, I understand, but I mean, it's important for us to think of that. There was another question as well about exposed walls and stone and things. And so if you get a client who doesn't really like the things that you do, and has his own Pinterest or his own website or his own album of photographs, do you reject that client, or do you engage with them, or how do you deal with that situation?
We engage, we try. If it fails, we reject. I mean, that's how it is, you see. But but I think there are ways of convincing. There are a number of clients we are able to convert them.
Right.
Some of them, I'm not.
Please elaborate on that.
You see, first you have to tell about, when you're doing the expose these things, you save the money. That's where but the client is reached in a problem because that argument doesn't work there. You have to talk something else. But we give the choice to the client, saying that if you can keep it exposed as it is, we'll do that way. If you want, you can plaster afterwards.
Later.
What is the point? So that way, he gets. I said, you are getting both choices. Yeah, you're not getting a single choice of only plaster. Either this or that, or you can plaster only areas which you want. By doing this, you are going to save a lot of money. And if you have extra money, please go ahead and do it. That's how. And we're able to 3-4 houses. We're able to this way with this kind of argument. Maybe not very convincing, but that's how it is. You see. And just to educate the client, the natural material, beautiful material, and educate that paint is something like that. It's not good for health. Painting, plaster and paint, they're not good for health. You see. And it's a petroleum product. You see. So you just keep on talking like this, and maybe some result may come, may not come. Doesn't matter. So I think people like material which is natural material. I think nobody's. But you do the plaster, particularly very rich people's houses, everything shining there, the railing and this and thing. And when I walk there and say, wall says, touch me not, and the railing said, please don't touch. I'm supposed to walk, so I have to touch it, So I think those kind of houses become very impersonal. They're not very humane, But I think if you do this kind of, I don't know, is a way of, logically. But I think when you do with natural material, you can just go and put the hand. You can do anything with it, Nothing happens. You are bringing the people closer to nature by doing this. And other people the house is rejecting the people for staying inside. That's the difference between these two persons. I don't know. I'm not against plastered wall, plastered buildings. Please don't mistake me.
Thank you all for joining, and thank you, Navnath sir and Vinay sir, for
Pleasure.